She publicly served me divorce papers. Love, regret, and karma followed soon after. The public devastation. The crystal chandeliers of Marcello's restaurant cast a warm glow over the assembled guests, but Marcus Sullivan felt a chill creeping up his spine. He adjusted his tie nervously, scanning the faces of Diana's colleagues who filled the private dining room. His wife had insisted he dress in his best suit for this important dinner, though she'd been vague about the details. "Thank you all for coming," Diana announced, standing at the head of the long table. Her tailored navy suit was impeccable, her dark hair swept into a severe bun. She looked every inch the successful attorney Marcus had fallen in love with 6 years ago, yet something in her eyes was distant, cold. "I've gathered you here tonight because I believe in transparency and honesty." Marcus smiled uncertainly, wondering if she was announcing her partnership at the firm. He'd been so proud of her dedication, even when it meant lonely evenings in their apartment surrounded by his architectural sketches and half-finished models of buildings he dreamed of restoring. Diana reached into her leather portfolio and withdrew a manila envelope. The room fell silent as she walked toward Marcus, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor with mechanical precision. "Marcus, our marriage has run its course. You're a good man, but you lack the drive and ambition I need in a partner." Time seemed to freeze. Marcus heard gasps from around the table as Diana placed the envelope before him. His hands trembled as he opened it, recognizing immediately the legal letterhead, the cold language of dissolution. "Diana, what are you doing?" he whispered, his voice barely audible. "I'm moving forward," she replied, her tone businesslike. "I've already signed. I need you to do the same. Tonight. Here." Marcus felt every eye in the room boring into him. James Winters, Diana's colleague, smirked from across the table. Others looked away uncomfortably. His heart hammered against his ribs, urging him to shout, to demand an explanation, to ask how 6 years could end like this, as public spectacle and private devastation. But Marcus had never been a man of loud protests or dramatic gestures. He was a builder, a restorer, someone who believed in foundations and patience. With shaking hands, he pulled a pen from his jacket pocket and signed where indicated. He stood slowly, meeting Diana's eyes one last time, searching for any trace of the woman who once laughed at his terrible jokes and fell asleep on his shoulder during movie nights. He found nothing but ice. "Goodbye, Diana," he said quietly, then walked toward the exit with his head held high despite the humiliation burning through his veins. Behind him, uncomfortable murmurs filled the room, but Marcus didn't look back. Outside, the cool evening air hit his face, and only then did he allow his shoulders to sag, the weight of public rejection finally settling onto his chest like a boulder he'd carry for miles to come. The hollow victory. Diana signed the final partnership agreement 3 weeks after the divorce, her name embossed in gold on the office door, Diana Winters, senior partner. She ran her fingers over the letters, waiting for the rush of satisfaction she'd anticipated for years. Instead, she felt oddly hollow. "Congratulations," James said, appearing beside her with champagne glasses. "You made the right choice, cutting loose that dead weight. Now you can focus entirely on what matters." Diana accepted the glass, forcing a smile. James had been whispering doubts about Marcus for months, how he was content with small renovation projects instead of pursuing major developments, how he preferred quiet evenings at home over networking events. She'd listened, let those whispers become her own thoughts until they poisoned what she and Marcus had built together. The celebration felt mechanical. Colleagues congratulated her, but their eyes held judgment she pretended not to see. Everyone had witnessed the restaurant incident, and while some admired her ruthless efficiency, others whispered about cruelty and unnecessary spectacle. That night, Diana returned to the apartment, now hers alone. The silence greeted her like a stranger. She kicked off her heels and noticed immediately what was missing. Marcus's architectural books were gone from the shelves. His coffee mug, the chipped blue one he'd used every morning for 6 years, absent from the dish rack. The sketch of their apartment building he'd drawn on their first anniversary vanished from the hallway wall. She opened the refrigerator to find it nearly empty. Marcus had always handled grocery shopping, remembering her preferences without being asked. Greek yogurt with honey, not plain. Almond milk, not regular, those specific chocolate-covered strawberries from the market 3 blocks away. Diana ordered takeout and ate alone at the dining table, her phone displaying emails that suddenly seemed less important. She remembered how Marcus used to ask about her day, genuinely listening even when exhausted from his own projects. He'd massage her shoulders while she vented about difficult clients, never offering solutions unless she asked, just providing steady, comforting presence. The following morning, she woke to silence instead of the smell of fresh coffee Marcus always prepared. She fumbled through making her own, burning her tongue on the too hot liquid she'd poured impatiently. At the office, she snapped at her assistant for bringing the wrong lunch order, something Marcus would have gotten right without asking. Days blurred into weeks. Diana threw herself into cases, winning verdicts and earning praise, but each evening returned her to that empty apartment where success felt strangely meaningless. She scrolled through her phone, realizing she had colleagues and contacts but no real friends to call. No one who knew her morning routine or remembered she hated surprise parties or understood that her sharp exterior hid deeper insecurities. Meanwhile, Sophie Chen mentioned to Diana during a chance encounter at a coffee shop that Marcus had taken on the renovation of the old Miller Community Center. "He's transforming it," Sophie said, her tone cool. "Taking something broken and making it beautiful again. It's what he does best." The words stung more than Diana wanted to admit. That night, she drove past the community center, seeing lights on inside, Marcus's truck parked outside. She didn't stop, but something twisted painfully in her chest, regret, perhaps, or the first whisper of recognition that ambition without connection was just another form of loneliness. The unexpected crisis. The rain came down in sheets, blurring Diana's windshield faster than the wipers could clear it. She should have pulled over, but James's voice echoed through her car's speakers, demanding she review the contract amendments before tomorrow's meeting. Diana squinted at the road, phone balanced on her lap, trying to read the document while navigating the slick streets. "Diana, are you listening?" James's irritation crackled through the connection. "Yes, Clause 7 needs," her words cut off as headlights suddenly blazed in her peripheral vision. She swerved instinctively, but the wet road offered no traction. The car spun, a sickening rotation of lights and darkness, before impact sent her world into silence. Diana woke to harsh fluorescent lights and the steady beep of monitors. Pain radiated through her left leg and skull. A woman in a white coat appeared above her, features kind but professional. "Ms. Winters, I'm Dr. Reeves. You were in an accident. You have a fractured tibia, a moderate concussion, and some bruised ribs. You're going to be fine, but you'll need help during recovery." Diana tried to sit up, gasping at the sharp protest of her body. "My phone, I need to call, who?" The question stopped her cold. James would consider her injury an inconvenience. Her colleagues were competitors disguised as friends. Her parents lived overseas and she'd grown distant from them during her career climb. "We found an emergency contact in your phone," Dr. Reeves said gently. "Marcus Sullivan. He's on his way." "No," Diana whispered, panic flooding through her. "Please, don't, I can't." But it was too late. An hour later, despite her protests, despite everything, Marcus appeared in her hospital room doorway. He wore paint-stained jeans and a faded shirt, clearly having come straight from the community center. His eyes held concern, not anger, and that somehow made it worse. "Diana," he said simply, approaching her bed. "You don't have to be here," she managed, turning her face away. "I humiliated you. I threw away our marriage in front of everyone. You should hate me." Marcus pulled a chair beside her bed and sat down with that same patient grace she'd once found boring and now realized was simply steadiness. "I don't hate you, Diana. I never could." Tears she'd been holding back for weeks finally spilled over. "Why? Why would you come?" "Because when you love someone, really love them, it doesn't just evaporate because they hurt you," Marcus said quietly. He reached for her hand, his calloused fingers gentle around hers. "The marriage might be over, but I can't just stop caring whether you're okay." Through the long night, Marcus stayed. When Diana woke from painful, medication-induced dozes, he was there, reading a book under the dim lamp, or sketching in the small notebook he always carried, or simply sitting in watchful silence. Nurses came and went, checking vitals and adjusting medications, and each one assumed he was her devoted husband. Neither corrected them. In those dark hours, Diana found herself studying him with new eyes. The gentleness she dismissed as weakness was actually strength, the ability to show up without resentment, to care without conditions. His quiet presence filled the room with something she'd been missing in her empty apartment, in her hollow victories, in all her ambitious climbing. When dawn finally broke through the hospital window, Marcus stirred, stretching his neck. He caught her watching him and offered a small smile. "Thank you," Diana whispered. "For coming. For staying." "Get some rest," he replied. "We'll figure out the next steps when you're stronger." As he prepared to leave for a few hours, Diana realized with startling clarity that she'd spent months chasing partnerships and promotions while discarding the one partnership that actually mattered. And now, broken in a hospital bed, she was finally beginning to understand what she'd lost. The slow awakening. Recovery was humbling. Diana, who prided herself on independence and control, couldn't manage stairs with her cast, couldn't shower without help, couldn't even make coffee without losing her balance. The hospital discharged her after 3 days, and she'd arranged for a nursing service until Marcus quietly intervened. "I'll help," he said simply. "Your apartment has stairs to reach it. My ground floor place makes more sense." Diana wanted to refuse, pride flaring instinctively, but practicality won. She moved temporarily into Marcus's small rental, a converted warehouse space she'd never visited during their marriage, always too busy with work. Now, being carried over the threshold by her ex-husband in a plaster cast felt like cosmic irony. The space stunned her. Exposed brick walls displayed Marcus's architectural sketches and photographs of buildings mid-restoration. Warm wood floors glowed under soft lighting. A wall of windows overlooked the community center project. The apartment felt alive in ways their sterile, modern place never had, lived in, loved, full of creative energy. "It's beautiful," Diana admitted as Marcus settled her onto a comfortable couch surrounded by pillows. "It's home," he replied, already moving to the kitchen. "Chicken soup okay? It's about all I trust myself to make without burning down the building." The first days were awkward. Diana struggled with accepting help, Marcus assisting her to the bathroom, helping her dress, bringing meals on a tray. But his manner remained unfailingly gentle, never making her feel infantilized or pitied. He worked on his laptop beside her, taking video calls with contractors while she read case files, their old rhythm slowly returning. "Why are you doing this?" Diana asked one evening as Marcus carefully elevated her leg on fresh pillows. "Really? You could have ignored the hospital's call." Marcus sat back, considering. "Remember when we first met? You'd just lost a major case, felt like your career was over. I found you crying in that coffee shop." Diana remembered. She'd been a junior associate, devastated by failure. "You said something that stuck with me," Marcus continued. "You said people show who they really are when there's nothing to gain. When I sat with you that day, I had nothing to gain. I just saw someone hurting and wanted to help." He met her eyes. "That's still who I am, Diana. Whether we're married or not doesn't change that." Tears welled up. "I forgot that. I forgot everything that mattered." Over the following weeks, Diana witnessed Marcus's life. Sophie visited frequently, bringing homemade meals and treating Diana with polite coolness that gradually thawed. Diana watched Marcus on video calls with the community center board, fighting to preserve historical elements while making the building functional, his passion evident in every word. She saw him sketching late into the night, turning rubble into beauty on paper before making it real. One afternoon, Diana convinced Marcus to let her visit the community center, hopping on crutches through the space. She saw his vision coming to life, preserved crown molding, restored hardwood, modern accessibility seamlessly integrated with historical character. Children would learn here, families would gather, all because Marcus believed broken things deserved second chances. "It's extraordinary," Diana breathed, running her hand along a restored banister. "You're extraordinary. I was so blind." Marcus stood beside her, hands in his pockets. "You weren't blind. You were focused on what you thought success looked like. I just wish you'd seen that success comes in different forms." That evening, after Marcus helped her back to the couch, Diana caught his hand. "I'm sorry. For everything. For how I ended things, for the public humiliation, for not seeing what I had. I know, Marcus said softly. Can I ask? Diana's voice trembled. Did you ever stop loving me? During all of this? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. No. I got angry, I felt betrayed, I worked through a lot of hurt. But love doesn't have an off switch, Diana. At least not for me. Diana pulled him closer, their faces inches apart. I don't deserve you. Maybe not, Marcus agreed with a gentle smile. But maybe that's not the point. Maybe the point is whether we can build something better from what broke. Their kiss was tentative, flavored with tears and apologies and possibility. It wasn't the passionate embrace of their early relationship, but something deeper, the tender reconnect of two people who'd traveled through pain to find each other again. The second beginning. 3 months later, Diana stood without crutches in the completed community center, surrounded by families exploring the space Marcus had resurrected. Children ran through halls that echoed with laughter instead of silence. Elderly residents admired historical photographs Marcus had curated. The building breathed with new life, proof that broken things could become beautiful again. You did this, Diana said, watching Marcus accept congratulations from the mayor. You created something that will matter for generations. Sophie appeared beside her, offering a cup of coffee. He creates beautiful things from broken pieces. Always has. She paused meaningfully. That includes relationships, apparently. Diana smiled. The past months had been humbling. She'd stepped back from partnership demands, restructured her life around genuine priorities rather than external validation. She and Marcus were dating again, slowly, carefully, learning each other anew. They'd attended counseling, worked through the wounds Diana's actions had caused, confronted the patterns that had poisoned their marriage. I spent years thinking ambition meant climbing higher alone, Diana said. I forgot that the best view comes from standing together with someone who sees you clearly. Marcus approached, sliding his arm around Diana's waist with familiar affection. Ready to go. They drove to the apartment, Diana's old place, which she'd been preparing for Marcus to move into. Over dinner, surrounded by boxes and shared belongings merging once more, they talked about the future with honesty they'd lacked before. I want to try again, Diana said, taking Marcus's hand across the table. Really try. Not as the people we were, but as who we've become. I want that too, Marcus replied. But we need ground rules. Honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. Respect for each other's passions, even when they're different. And no more public spectacles. If we ever struggle again, we work through it together, privately. Diana laughed through tears. Deal. I promise I'll never serve you divorce papers in a restaurant again. Probably wise, Marcus said, grinning. My heart couldn't take it twice. Later, as they stood on the balcony watching the city lights, Marcus pulled Diana close. You know what the community center taught me? That restoration is always worth it. You have to strip away the damage, expose the foundation, and rebuild with better materials and stronger vision. But what emerges is more valuable than the original because it survived the breaking. Diana turned to face him, cupping his face in her hands. We survived our breaking. We did, Marcus agreed. And now we get to choose, every day, to rebuild something stronger. Their kiss tasted of second chances and hard-won wisdom. Around them, the city hummed with life, indifferent to their small miracle of two people who'd lost each other and found their way back, scarred but wiser, broken but healing, grateful for the pain that taught them to value what truly mattered. Diana had learned that karma wasn't always punishment. Sometimes it was opportunity disguised as crisis, forcing you to confront what you'd carelessly destroyed. Love, she now understood, wasn't weakness but the strongest foundation two people could build upon. And regret, when acknowledged and acted upon, could become the catalyst for transformation. Marcus held her as stars appeared overhead, and Diana finally understood what home truly meant, not the walls around you, but the person beside you who sees your flaws and chooses to stay anyway, who offers grace when you deserve judgment, who believes in second chances even when first chances were squandered. They'd both changed. Diana balanced ambition with connection now, understanding that success meant nothing without someone to share it with. Marcus had learned his worth, refusing to accept less than he deserved while remaining open to love when it returned humbled and genuine. As they returned inside to continue unpacking their merged lives, both knew the road ahead wouldn't be perfect. But they'd weathered the worst and emerged more authentic, more appreciative, more committed to building something lasting. Sometimes love needed to fall apart to be rebuilt properly, with honesty instead of assumption, respect instead of contempt, gratitude instead of taking for granted. Diana and Marcus had been given a rare gift, the chance to do it right the second time, armed with painful lessons that made them better partners than they'd been before. And this time, they wouldn't waste it. Lessons. True love isn't measured by grand gestures but by quiet consistency, showing up, staying present, and choosing each other even when it's difficult. Pride and ambition mean nothing if they leave you standing alone at the summit. Success only matters when shared with someone who loves you for who you are, not what you achieve. Broken things, relationships, buildings, hearts, can be restored to something more beautiful than the original if we're willing to do the patient, humble work of rebuilding with wisdom gained from the breaking. Karma isn't always punishment. Sometimes it's grace disguised as crisis, giving us the chance to recognize what we've lost and the opportunity to reclaim it before it's truly gone forever.